March 2nd, 2023 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. So we've got 4 board members present tonight. We've got Board Member Caesar, Board Member Fleischhauer, Board Member Langley, and Board Member Scales. So let's start by approving or considering approval of the February 2nd, 2023 BZA minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Motion made by Greg, second by William. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so minutes are approved. Staff announcements.
I think the only announcement I have is that we are looking to set the date for our training, our 1-hour training. I think we've selected a date, so we'll get that on your calendars and an Outlook invite. Okay, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so just have one item on the agenda tonight. It's going to be a variance request to allow one 18-foot wide garage door. I'm on the minutes. I'm going backwards by, let me actually open the staff report for our item tonight. So there is one item tonight. I'm correct about that, incorrect about the caption. So it is a variance request to allow parking to extend beyond the rear of a non-residential principal building with yard frontage for the property located at 264 Natchez Street. Staff?
Thank you and good evening. The subject parcel is located at 264 Natchez Street and is zoned CI Civic and Institutional District. The property is located within the Historic Preservation Overlay and the Central Franklin Overlay District. The African American Heritage Foundation is proposing to renovate the historic Merrill Williams home to its original condition and use the facility as a community center. The existing structures on the property are a 2-story home located at the center of the lot and a detached garage in the northern corner of the lot. The home is a historic structure and cannot be relocated or rebuilt without jeopardizing its status on the National Register of Historic Places. To comply with the existing structures, the proposed location of parking extends beyond the rear of the principal building. Non-residential properties with yard frontage are required to locate parking to the rear of the principal building. For this reason, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow parking to extend beyond the rear of the principal building. The applicant has also provided a parking chart which displays the number of parking spaces that are needed according to their building use. However, the building use listed is not correct. The building use listed is office, but office is not a permitted use in the Civic Institutional Zoning District. While no zoning determination has been formally provided, it is likely that the proposed community center would fall under charitable, fraternal, or social organization as its building use. The parking requirement for this use is listed as variable. The property was recently rezoned, which may explain this discrepancy. For this reason, staff is under the assumption that the parking chart is inaccurate and the amount of parking provided in the plans is the amount needed for the community center. In addition, this project has received approval with conditions from the Historic Zoning Commission. The proposal is most sensitive to the architectural qualities of the site's contributing structure and presents the least amount of adverse impact on the contributing status of the historic structure and the context of the overall historic site. I will now go into staff analysis. The BZA may authorize a variance only when the request has met all 3 criteria in accordance with the Franklin Zoning Ordinance and state law. The staff has completed an analysis of the request in light of these criteria. Criteria 1, where by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property at the time of the enactment of the zoning ordinance, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions, such a piece of property is not able to accommodate development as required under this ordinance. The property is exceptional due to its historic condition. Because the home and the detached garage are historic structures, they cannot be relocated or rebuilt without jeopardizing their status on the National Registry of Historic Places. This extremely limits the possible location for necessary parking. The amount of parking provided in the plan is required to accommodate parking for existing historic structures, and the location of parking is the most logical orientation given the location of the existing structures. The distance between the rear of the structure and the back lot line can only accommodate 1 drive aisle and a single row of parking. The parking must extend beyond the rear of the building to accommodate the ADA required parking spaces and to allow for ADA access to the structure's rear door and ramp. Staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 2. The strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for, or exceptional or undue hardship upon, the owner of the property. Staff finds that the application of a provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in undue hardship upon the owner of the property. According to the zoning ordinance, the parking must be located to the rear of the principal building. With the location of the existing structures and their inability to move the structures, the applicant is not able to comply with this requirement of the zoning ordinance. The only plausible location for ADA parking extends beyond the rear of the principal building as shown in the proposed layout. This regulation of the zoning ordinance creates an exceptional hardship for the owner of the property. Staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 3. Such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds that this proposed plan would not cause substantial detriment to the public good. The intent of the zoning ordinance in this case is for parking to be secondary to the building and its relationship to the street so that views from the street are not of parking lots. The proposed plan locates parking as far to the rear as possible. The proposed plan also includes landscaping to provide a buffer between the parking and 11th Avenue. Because the proposed parking is situated as far from Natchez Street as it can be, staff finds this proposal to meet the intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds this criteria is met. Staff's recommended motion. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals move to approve the variance request to allow parking to extend beyond the rear of a non-residential principal building with yard frontage for the property located at 264 Natchez Street, because the criteria for granting a variance have been met.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present? If you could state your name for us and give us kind of an overview of the project, T.
Yes, hello, my name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing the African American Heritage Foundation tonight, consulting for them as they transition this once residential home into a very needed community center here on Natchez Street. Really excited to be a part of this process. Through this process, we have really been able to focus on how the facility could be used, would be used, and that really kind of walks into the number of parking spaces that we need. But Board Member Mary Pierce is here tonight, and she wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're intending on using the building for. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you all for serving. My name's Mary Pierce, and the African American Heritage Society was founded over 20 years ago by myself, Rick Warwick, Miss Mary Mills, who was an educator, Miss Basilia Harris, and Miss Louise Patton. And our first project that we did as far as housing went was to restore the McLemore House, which was built by an emancipated person, and just a few years after the Civil War. We have seen, it's no secret in Franklin, the Natchez Street Historic District does not have historic overlay zoning, and we are losing that district one piece at a time. And we decided that with large homes, that action should be taken to try to at least save a cornerstone of our Black history on Natchez Street, which was the most vibrant city within the city with commercial housing and all these other things. And the Natchez Street house owned by Mr. Fred and Maggie Williams was available for purchase from their daughter Cassandra. And we have bought that house. We have raised, I think at this point, about $1.2 million for the project. And this will be in partnership with Middle Tennessee State University. And we will have graduate students and students in historic preservation who will be in the building to help tell people the story of the Natchez Street neighborhood and save that story for the future. We also will have in the dining room, about 10 people that want to have small meetings. We have lots of nonprofits and other things that need small meeting space, and we would make that available to them. And then we'll interpret the story of Natchez Street on the walls. And one of the fun things, being the age I am, Cassandra, their daughter's about my age, and upstairs we'll be showing what a room would have looked like of a girl in that age period with the shag carpet and the go-go boots and other items that she had. So we're very excited about it. We feel like the variance is needed. We're thrilled it's supported by staff, but it's an exciting project. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have filed with the Historic Zoning Commission, have received certificate of appropriateness for the location of the parking where we're showing it now. We've been working very closely with the Historic Zoning Commission for all modifications, approvals to the exterior of the building, et cetera. So I appreciate your consideration of this tonight. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any other citizen comments? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment?
I have a question. We got after the public comment.
Yeah, let's go ahead and close the public comment, and then we'll
Sure.
come back to questions.
Motion closed.
Okay, motion made by William, seconded by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so public comment's closed. Go ahead.
Sure. Mr. Gamble, talk to me about the landscaping. How will that work, and how would that potentially obscure the parking area?
Sure. We have evergreen landscape planting that will be between 30 to 36 inches tall that will be alongside the parking lot that faces the Natchez Street. And it
And
will
what-
be continuous along the front of the building and be the foundation plantings for the building.
Will it maintain that height, or do you anticipate it getting taller? Or?
We'd like for it to be maintained at that height. It just, the plant materials that we're proposing, plus it allows for safety in the parking lot. People can see over it and see into it, but it screens the cars.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions from the board? If not, I'm ready to entertain a motion if you guys
I
are
may
ready.
have a question here for staff, and staff, if you'll help me, because this is a corner lot, I think that adds to some of the uniqueness of the property and the difficulty in putting a parking lot behind a home that is, or a piece of property that is located on a corner lot. How, can you help me with how the current ordinance interprets where this parking lot should be, given the corner lot orientation?
It's mostly because the yard frontage combination with this building being a non-residential use. So we're interpreting it as a non-residential structure. And so the language of that section of the zoning ordinance and yard frontage says that it should be to the rear of the building. So whether it's on a corner doesn't really come into play at that point. It just has to be behind the rear facade of that structure. And they do have 3 spaces sort of extending closer. Does that make sense?
Still isn't two front setbacks, is what you're telling me.
At this point, it doesn't really matter where the front setbacks are because it's the language is behind the rear facade of the building.
So it's really those spaces that are kind of, I'll say, even with the back of the building that we're looking at.
Because I know there's some very prominent houses down 11 behind it, although there is some businesses across the street before the condos, right? So it's kind of a mixed application down 11th anyway.
The issue that we've been struggling with is the limited distance from the rear of the structure to the rear property line, and trying to get these ADA handicap spaces in such a way where they don't have to cross vehicles
Right.
coming into the parking lot. They can still get to the ramp that's located at the back of the building and in. And then we have one other parking space over on the side here that is also out of compliance that we're asking approval, consideration for.
Well, I think it's a great application. So I've went by that house many times wondering what's going to happen.
Is that a motion for approval, Jeff?
Yeah, I think I can probably do that.
While we're saying that, and maybe Jeff, if you're ready to make a motion, I won't step on that.
No, go ahead.
I would just say that it's important that, in my interpretation, I don't want to make a zoning ordinance variance and neglect the community that is thriving around that area just for the convenience aspect. And so that's why, on the surface, this seems like a very simple approval potentially to some, but to me, I want to make sure that we're holding this prized community in the highest standards, much like we are the rest of the neighborhoods around. And for that reason, I want to make sure we haven't heard from any neighbors, perhaps it would be in opposition.
Haven't?
Sure.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm good, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance request to allow the parking to extend beyond the rear of a non-residential principal building with yard frontage for the property located at 264 Natchez Street, because the criteria for granting a variance has been met.
Okay, motion for approval made by Jeff. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by William. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, seeing none, variance is approved.
Yes, sir.
I think that covers everything. We've gone through staff announcements. Anything else need to know before we, all right, I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion made by Greg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I don't think anyone's opposed, so you'll have a